So I'm here tonight to talk about Ewok building. So I like action figures, and we wanted to make them life-size. So we used a lot of different references to determine what we wanted for dimensions so that we could make them as realistic as possible, as realistic as something from a movie is. So we used some photographs that are out there on the internet of some of the original costumes.
Bueno, entonces la charla es sobre jugar, ¿cierto? Crear juguetes, pero juguetes tamaño real. Entonces para eso pues la idea es primero verificar referencias, mirar fotos de las películas, de los elementos originales y a partir de ellos entonces ver cómo se construyen.
We also used some reference material on some of the original props from the movie. These are specifically from Tom Spina, who's been mentioned before, and some of the things that Gus Lopez has in his collection.
Entonces son fotos de los props originales de la película, los que tiene Tom Spina, y fotos también de cómo los usaron los actores en la producción.
So once we had the concept stuff behind us, we had to actually draw out what we wanted it to look like and how we wanted to get it put together. Fortunately, our group has some very artistic people that could draw out and create patterns to determine what we wanted to do.
Entonces en el grupo lo primero que hacen es dibujar, pensar en qué es lo que quieren hacer y ponerlo eso en un papel. Y pues en el grupo hay gente muy artística que sabe hacer estas cosas.
When we started our actual building, we decided to start with the head because it shows a lot more accomplishment once you have that finished. And to do that, we took Halloween masks and drilled out the holes so that it was larger eye hole and put the lid for a baby bottle in there to be the eyeballs.
La primera parte que hacen es la parte de la cara, entonces para ello pues obviamente toman una máscara, le hacen los hoyitos de los ojos y ponen allí pues las tapas de la botella para que queden cubiertos.
Then we needed to really refine the face and the nose and mouth, so we used clay to sculpt extra lips, teeth, and a nose that was more conducive to what an Ewok looked like.
Entonces allí usan arcilla para moldear la nariz y los labios y para pintarlos para que queden lo más parecido al original.
Then we had to fill out the rest of the basic muscles of the Ewok's face. So we created bigger cheeks and a rougher brow so that it would look more like what it does in the movies once we had the fur on it.
Entonces después modelan con pluma, pues obviamente la parte de los cachetes, la frente para que queden pues más grandes y se vean más parecidos a los de la película.
So then we added ears, which were out of cut foam and painted with latex so that they would be protected and look more realistic.
Entonces utilizan foamy para hacer la parte de los oídos y también utilizan látex y lo pintan para que quede más realista.
Then you have to start adding the fur. And this is done piece by piece so that it looks natural. And so you have to cut out smaller pieces along the cheeks and under the nose and under the chin and then doing the forehead. And it's really important for getting the way the fur lays so that the bottom half of your face, it goes down, and then the head goes back across to the back.
Entonces después viene la parte de agregar pues obviamente el pelo, que es una parte un poco más compleja porque tienen que hacerlo parte por parte, pieza por pieza, van armándolo, pues desde las partes más largas hasta las partes más pequeñas como debajo de la nariz, aquí en la quijada, pómulos y en la frente, teniendo en cuenta también mucho la dirección del pelo hacia dónde va naturalmente, que si es en esta parte pues va hacia abajo, si en esta parte pues va hacia atrás.
And so then here are a couple of the completed faces for our Ewoks.
Hay dos ejemplos de ya rostros terminados de los Ewoks.
Then we had to start creating the body. And so our engineer in our group designed what the foam suit would be in paper so that we could really mold that out of foam to give it the bulk, but have the right dimensions so that when we cut the foam, it would fit together to actually look like a bodysuit.
Entonces los ingenieros del grupo, antes de hacer el modelo en foamy, pues hacen el modelo en papel, dándole las dimensiones correctas para que cuando se corte el foamy pues quede también de la dimensión que debe ser.
And so this is the pattern being drawn out on foam and then cutting the foam out.
Estaba primero pues la plantilla en papel y ahora como se ve cuando pasan esa plantilla en foam y hacen el recorte.
Once everything was cut out, we had to use a special glue that works on foam to put it together so that it would hold.
O sea, ya utilizan un pegante especial para que le dé forma y para que no se despegue, obviamente, las piezas que acabaron de cortar.
After that, we used a PVC pipe or a plastic pipe to put together for the skeleton, and the foam suit went over this. And again, our engineer designed it so that the arms would move, but the legs would stand still and hold him upright.
Entonces con tubos de PVC plásticos hacen todo el esqueleto de la figura, los ingenieros obviamente teniendo en cuenta que puedan mover los brazos, pero que las piernas permanezcan derechas para que sostenga el resto de las masas.
Then you start putting all of your pieces together to check whether it's going to actually fit and have the right dimensions.
Empiezan ya a armar todas las piezas, verificando que queden de las dimensiones correctas y que se le dé la forma adecuada.
We cut some foam out to put down for the feet, and again we use clay to make actual toenails and fingernails as well.
Con foamy y con un poco de esta masa moldeadora hacen pues los dientes y los pies, arcilla para que queden pues de la forma correcta.
To do the hands, we used leather work gloves and wire inside of it so that the hands would bend and actually hold things.
Entonces, utilizando guantes y alambre hacen las manos para que tengan la forma de los dedos y para que realmente puedan sostener cosas o manejarlas.
Next step was to get the fur, and so fortunately one of our members is really good at making clothes, and so she made a fur suit for each of the Ewoks with these patterns that we had.
Entonces para la piel lo mismo, hacen unas plantillas, es una persona que es muy buena trabajando en tela, entonces hace las plantillas con las que visten al Ewok.
And the fur is really where the character of your Ewok comes out, so picking the right kind of fur, and in case anybody's worried, it was all fake fur. No animals were harmed in this. But knowing what color, how thick you want it, makes a big difference. And I will, as a word of advice, anything with a pattern in it is really hard to sew together the suit to make it look right.
Una de las partes obviamente que más requiere atención es escoger el color correcto del pelo, del pelaje, y que pues es todo artificial, ningún animal fue herido en el trabajo, y la parte de coser ese pelo es bien complicada para que quede bien unidas las partes.
Once you have all the pieces cut out, you lay it out, you get somebody who's good with the sewing machine to sew it for you. And then we have suits that can go on our foam and plastic frames.
Entonces ya están todas las piezas, pues si tienen a alguien que cosa y que sepa coser mucho mejor, y entonces ya con eso se da el resultado de tener ya el vestido que va a cubrir las partes de foam.
from that point, really the final step is just doing nip and tuck where you find that it needs, when you sew the suit together, it's not going to be perfect, so you have to just find those points, do a little bit of trimming, a little bit of, pinching in it here or there to make it actually come out and look like a real Ewok.
Y ahí ya viene la parte de hacer los ajustes, cortar, pegar, ajustar en las secciones que se requieran, pues para darle la forma correcta y adicionar pues los elementos necesarios para que quede completa la figura.
These are the members of the original group. So when we first did this several years ago, there were 6 of us that made Ewoks. And so this is us working in my garage to get that going. We tried to do it like an assembly line for a lot of things because individual people had good skills at some things and not at others.
El grupo original, 6 personas trabajando en el garaje de Thomas, trataron de hacerlo como en una línea industrial en donde cada persona que tenía ciertas habilidades particulares en cada cosa, pues iba haciendo su parte.
Then we get to the fun part of our Ewok adventure. We did this so that we could take them to the Redwoods to go to the filming locations with our life-size Ewoks. Because as Gus said in his presentation, traveling to these locations just adds another dimension to appreciation of the film.
O sea, tenía la parte chévere que era ya con los Ewoks armados, irse a las locaciones, a los sitios en donde filmaron la película y llevarse sus Ewoks de tamaño real, porque eso pues obviamente le da un valor agregado a ese trabajo que habían hecho.
You can also decorate your Ewoks for various holidays or whatever is going on. And so a couple of us made the Santa suits to be like the Ralph Bakori Christmas card from Lucasfilm.
Ya con eso se puede jugar con diferentes accesorios. Este es un ejemplo de los Ewoks disfrazados de Santa Claus parecidos a los que Ralph McQuarrie pintó para las tarjetas de Navidad.
So that once you have your Ewok, he can't stay at home all the time. He needs to go out and do things. So you got to load him in your car with all of his accessories, and you need to go to places like baseball games. And having him promoted on TV is another great way to get the word out. And at the baseball game, one of the local TV shows saw us there and came to the house and wanted to do an interview about the project. And then going to the Redwoods, to the national parks, and it's amazing how many people see them and the crowd that you draw. And when we got there, one of the rangers saw what we had and was just enamored. And so he took us and acted as crowd control and took us to the places for photos. So Ewok lovers are out there everywhere. And when we travel, we like to go camping, and Ewoks love going camping as well. They also like the beach. And sometimes they can find their own kind when they're out. That is the basic presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. We also have a Facebook group that's Ewok Builders Club. We have more pictures than these even of how we built them, and we will answer questions if you message the page. There's several administrators, and we're more than happy to answer the questions. We would love to have Ewoks built in more places than just Seattle. So,
is there any place where we can see the pictures or the process?
Ewok on Facebook.
Okay.
The Ewok Builders Club. We have
Ewoks Builders Club.
Yeah. And I can make sure that you get to the right page if you want to go today on your phone.
Perfect.
What's your favorite Ewok?
From the movie or the one that's sitting in my living room right now? So, my favorite is actually the first one that I built, which he is like a medicine man, and so he has actual raccoon bones for a necklace, And he has a nice staff that has the raccoon skull on it. And he was a lot more work because his fur had a pattern. But he is just my favorite because, you know, I think he turned out really well, and he's gotten me into a lot of different places. I encourage you all to do it because the whole cost of the project as well was probably about $60 to $80, depending on the quality of the fur you want to get. That's where most of your money is. Yeah.
Español. Pregúntale por favor si dentro de la grabación ocuparon algunas personas, no sé, de tamaño o de talla pequeña para recrear algunas escenas.
Yes, during the filming of the movie, they all had little people in them. And several of them I know still tour conventions.
And we've met several of them.
Yeah, we actually took our Ewoks to a convention where some of them were and got the Ewoks pictures with the actors.
En las películas varios actores personificaban a cada uno y que ellos en las convenciones se han encontrado con esos actores y se toman fotos con sus Ewoks lado a lado.
You can personalize your Ewok like a Sith or like a Jedi?
Yes. You would have to get a lightsaber with a much shorter blade because they're not very tall. But yes, you could definitely do it however you want. That's the beauty of having your own Ewok. It's your personality that shows through.